the deadly parasite that slowly turns humans into monstrous beings. The movie begins by showing a couple named Emily and Randy who are going on vacation to a house near the beach. The house turns out to be an empty property owned by Randy's father. That's why Randy purposely takes Emily there to spend some private time together. As soon as they arrive, Randy invites Emily inside the house, and shortly after, they start making love. Afterward, Emily goes to the bathroom to pee. When she's done, she decides to walk around the house for a bit, but she's shocked to find a woman sitting at the dining table. Quickly, Emily wakes Randy and tells him that there's a woman who sneaked into the house. Hearing this, Randy immediately goes downstairs to check, and it's true. A woman, whom we'll call Jane, has entered the house without permission. Randy then explains to Jane that the house belongs to his father, whose name is Doc. Suddenly, Jane calls out Randy's name as if she already knows him. Not long after, Jane's husband, Mitch, arrives at the house after buying some groceries from the supermarket. It turns out that Mitch and Jane are old friends of Randy's father. They were allowed by Doc to stay at the house temporarily. Since Randy happens to be there with his girlfriend Emily, Mitch invites both of them to have a dinner party together.
Things have been strained between us lately.
As night falls, the four of them enjoy a dinner party while drinking alcohol. They chat and get to know each other better.
I did it as a bit of a challenge to myself. It really has more to do with life on this planet.
Not with someone so smart.
After their conversation, Randy suggests that Emily, Jane, and Mitch try some drugs he happens to have brought with him. After a bit of discussion, Jane and Mitch finally agree to join in that night.
Life on other planets, it helps us with our conflict.
Randy, who is already feeling high, decides to take a nap, while the others begin to feel the effects of the drugs as well. Emily, who is chatting with Jane on the couch, suddenly dozes off after a few moments. When she wakes up, Emily is confused because Jane, Mitch, and Randy are no longer inside the house. She starts looking around and eventually finds them outside. The three of them are staring at a strange phenomenon near the beach. Randy asks Mitch and Jane if they have ever seen anything like it before. Mitch replies that it's the first time they've seen such a thing, and since they're all high, it might just be a hallucination. From Emily's perspective, it looks like tiny microbes floating in the air. Jane, on the other hand, is fascinated by the beauty of the phenomenon and expresses her desire to take a closer look. However, Mitch stops her, not wanting Jane to go too far, and instead tells her to go back inside and get some rest. Now, only Emily and Mitch remain outside, while Jane and Randy are resting inside the house. After talking with Emily for a while, Mitch goes back inside to look for Jane. But after searching around for some time, he still can't find her. It turns out Jane secretly left the house to get closer to the strange microbes. Meanwhile, Mitch asks Randy if he knows where Jane went. Randy says that Jane quietly slipped out of the house earlier, seemingly curious and mesmerized by the floating microbes. Hearing this, Mitch quickly rushes out to look for Jane. Meanwhile, Emily begins to feel dizzy due to the after effects of the drugs. On top of that, she notices the entire area around the house is now covered in thick fog. Her vision becomes blurry, and suddenly she faints.
I've seen sunspots.
When she regains consciousness, the house is completely dark. It's already 2 a.m. Emily can faintly hear Jane coughing somewhere in the house. Still feeling dizzy, she tells Randy that they should just go to bed. The next morning, Emily wakes up. The weather is bright and sunny, and she feels excited to go to the beach. She asks Randy to join her. While Randy is getting ready in the room, Emily goes downstairs and finds Jane sitting silently at the dining table. Emily approaches her and is shocked to see that Jane's face has changed. The day before, Jane looked perfectly fine, but now her skin appears dry and slightly peeling. Instead of explaining what happened, Jane quietly leaves to look for Mitch. Randy, who comes down the stairs, also notices Jane's strange appearance. He tries to greet her, but Jane ignores him completely. They both assume Jane might not be feeling well. Emily and Randy search around the house for Mitch, but he's nowhere to be found. Without wasting more time, they decide to head to the beach, hoping Mitch might be relaxing there. But unfortunately, they can't find any sign of him either. Because of that, the two of them decide to sunbathe under the bright sunlight. After a while, Randy starts feeling pain in his stomach and rushes to the bathroom. Besides going to relieve himself, he also plans to check on Jane's condition. Shortly after Randy leaves, Mitch suddenly appears right beside Emily. After chatting briefly with her, Mitch takes off his shirt and says he wants to go for a swim. But Emily watches in confusion as Mitch keeps walking farther and farther into the ocean until he disappears completely. Seeing Mitch recklessly walk into the sea makes Emily panic. She starts shouting his name, but suddenly she steps on something disgusting. At first glance, it looks like a parasite. The parasite begins eating into Emily's leg, leaving it badly injured, and then slowly burrows into the wound. Looking around the beach, Emily sees more parasites crawling along the shoreline. Horrified, she runs back to the house to find Randy. Once inside, she tries to figure out how to remove the parasite from her leg. Using whatever tools she can find, Emily finally manages to pull out the worm-like creature. She then treats her wound and wraps it with a bandage. After that, she quickly changes her clothes and plans to leave the place. But she's shocked to see Randy acting very strangely. Thick slime is oozing from his mouth. To make matters worse, Jane now appears completely transformed, looking like a zombie. It seems she's been infected by the parasite and has turned into one of them. Terrified, Emily urges Randy to escape the house with her. She even locks the door using a garden hose to keep Jane from getting out. Emily then runs to ask for help from nearby neighbors, but the area appears deserted.
Your stomach?
Knows everything.
Suddenly, a mysterious man appears, but he too has turned into a zombie. Emily quickly grabs Randy and leads him away from the house. Soon, a thick fog begins to roll in, covering the entire area, making it hard to see and even harder to breathe. After walking for some time, Emily spots a parked police car. She rushes inside and uses the radio to call for help, saying she's trapped in an area called Beachcomber near the coast. A police officer responds, warning her that the place is extremely dangerous because the thick fog there is toxic if inhaled. The officer tells her to lock herself inside a sealed room and make sure no air can get in. Before he can explain further, the radio connection suddenly cuts off. Emily quickly follows his instructions and breaks into a nearby house through a window to take shelter. Once inside, Randy finds a telephone, but it doesn't work at all. Both of them are completely confused about what's happening in the area. Even the tap water, which should be liquid, has turned thick and viscous. It seems the whole region has been taken over by airborne parasitic viruses. The more they breathe in the fog, the harder it becomes to breathe. Emily turns on the TV and sees that every channel has switched to an emergency broadcast urging citizens to evacuate to safer areas. Curious about the situation, she then turns on the radio and hears a report about microbes that can survive inside rocks. These microbes have released bacteria into the air, forming a dense fog that is deadly if inhaled. The broadcast warns that the human population could be wiped out in an instant if exposed to this toxic mist. Panicked, Emily starts sealing every gap in the house to prevent the thick fog from entering. She then goes down to the basement, where she discovers an oxygen tank they can use to breathe. Quickly, she brings the tank upstairs to help Randy, whose condition is getting worse by the minute. But while in the basement, Emily also spots a horrifying figure devouring a man's body. Terrified, she rushes back upstairs and locks the basement door. When she tries to find Randy, she's horrified to see that he has already turned into a zombie, infected by the parasite spreading inside his body. Heartbroken, Emily is forced to strike Randy with the oxygen tank to defend herself. Overcome with sadness at seeing her boyfriend transformed into a monster, she notices a car key lying under the table. Without wasting any time, Emily grabs it, takes one oxygen tank with her, and escapes the house. She starts driving, hoping to get out of the fog-covered area. Unfortunately, the fog grows even denser, making it impossible for her to see the road. Emily accidentally crashes the car into a tree. The impact leaves the car badly damaged, and she loses consciousness for a while, unable to use the oxygen tank she brought. As a result, her condition worsens from continuously inhaling the toxic fog. When she regains consciousness, she tries to take the oxygen tank with her, but it's stuck and she can't pull it free. Knowing she can't stay there any longer, Emily decides to continue on foot. However, that decision only makes things worse. Exhausted and barely able to breathe, Emily finally collapses by a lake, surrendering to her fate. The next morning, the scene shows the same lake where Emily lay down the night before. Her body is now seen lying motionless on the beach, completely alone. But upon closer look, it's clear that she's no longer Emily. She's been infected by the parasite. After inhaling too much of the toxic air, Emily has turned into a zombie, just like Randy and Jane. As the waves roll in, her body is swept away by the tide, disappearing without a trace, and the story ends.